He loaded 5 bullets into his rifle, then peered through a gap in the flower bed and saw a German officer preparing to take a bath. Just then, a jeep arrived, bringing the total number of German soldiers in sight to 5. Wiping them all out and escaping unscathed was, in theory, impossible. One of the soldiers began moving toward their hiding spot, filling the political officer crouched nearby with despair. Yet Vassili remained completely calm. Using the sound of an exploding shell to mask his shots, he killed 2 German officers in quick succession. The soldiers searching nearby realized something was wrong, but had no idea where the bullets were coming from. Vassili, still composed, lined up his next target. The reconnaissance soldier, lying prone on the ground, began to feel real fear. With just those 5 bullets, Vassili not only saved Danilov's life, but also made himself a legend in a single engagement. During World War II, the German army seemed unstoppable. The flames of war soon reached the Soviet city of Stalingrad. For the Soviets, this was a city that absolutely could not fall. They kept sending fresh recruits there. No training, no drills, just straight to the front lines. On September 20th, 1942, Vassili was shipped across the Volga with a large group of reinforcements on a ferry engulfed in battle. Seeing bodies floating in the water, the new recruits were gripped by terror. Before they could process it, German planes roared overhead. Bullets tore through them mercilessly. The men were little more than lambs to the slaughter. They had no effective way to fight back or defend themselves. Reaching the opposite bank alive was purely a matter of luck. After several strafing runs, even the recruits who hadn't been physically hit began to break down mentally. Driven only by the instinct to survive, some jumped overboard. But in the Soviet lexicon, deserters were no different from the enemy. The officers responded without hesitation, opening fire on their own men. Watching comrades die before he even learned their names left Vassili's mind blank. Fortunately, he made it to the far shore alive. Only then did he discover that rifles were issued on the basis of 2 men per weapon. Those without a gun were told to follow someone who had one. When that soldier fell, the unarmed man would pick up his rifle and keep fighting. Weaponless, Vassili advanced with the others toward the front. Under relentless, all-encompassing German fire, the Soviet charge achieved no meaningful progress. Even if every Soviet soldier had been armed, the outcome would have been little better. As it was, half the men on the line had no weapons at all. Unable to pick up a fallen rifle, Vassili soon found himself in an impossible position. The utterly lopsided battle quickly crushed the remaining soldiers' will to fight. They began shouting, "Retreat!" and as the cries grew louder, the survivors turned and ran back the way they had come. What they didn't know was that their own officers had already set up a machine gun behind them. From the very beginning, there had been no way out of this fight. Soon, the square, littered with bodies, fell silent once more. After the smoke cleared, the German tanks did not withdraw. Instead, they remained in position covering the key approaches. Danilov, the political officer responsible for war propaganda, was passing through the area when a shell hit his vehicle, flipping it over. Miraculously surviving, Danilov crawled into the ruins of a fountain. As German soldiers began searching the area, his only option was to play dead. That was when he encountered Vassili. Vassili's extraordinary marksmanship not only restored a flicker of courage in Danilov, but also gave him hope that the war could still be won. Back at headquarters, Danilov immediately reported Vassili's feats to the general. He argued that the story would be the perfect way to boost army morale. With the general's approval, Vassili soon saw his own image on the front page of the newspaper. Both men understood exactly what this meant. A Soviet war myth had, in that moment, been given a human name. Whether Vassili survived the war or not, as a symbol of inspiration and morale, he had to remain invincible. Soon, Vassili's kill count became the only thing people paid attention to in the newspapers. He specialized in hunting German officers. As the number of confirmed kills rose, soldiers on the front lines and ordinary citizens alike began to see Vassili as the Soviet Union's hero. They stopped caring about the date and instead asked how many Germans Vassili had taken down that day. One day, while Vassili was out on a mission, a young boy suddenly ran up to him. Meeting his idol filled Sasha with genuine joy. He invited Vassili to his home for a meal and a chance to rest. Once there, Sasha's mother welcomed him warmly. Just then, Danilov arrived, carrying a stack of letters from admirers of Vassili. While Vassili worked on replying to the letters, a neighbor named Tania entered the room. Despite her disheveled appearance, her clear eyes and striking beauty caught the attention of both Vassili and Danilov. Vassili had first seen Tania on the train when he was drafted, and even then he had felt something for her. But war had given him no right to pursue personal feelings. Now, carrying the hopes of an entire nation on his shoulders, he felt even less entitled to express them. Danilov, however, had no such reservations. After a night of rest, Vassili shouldered his rifle and headed out to hunt again. Meanwhile, Danilov, aware that Tania spoke German, arranged for her transfer to headquarters as a communications assistant. This would allow her to be near him. Tania had originally wanted to serve as a civil defense volunteer in her neighborhood to protect the community, but Danilov was willing to trade 12 soldiers if necessary to bring her to his side. Across the lines, the Germans were not sitting idle. With their officers falling one after another, they summoned their own master sniper, König. König was the head of a sniper school. Many Soviet snipers had trained under him before the war. His sole mission now was to eliminate Vassili by any means necessary. Unaware of this, Vassili continued leading his team on operations. He had already claimed 7 kills that day, and the 8th seemed certain. After the shot, Vassili and a teammate moved forward to collect the Germans' identification tags as proof of the kill. While they entered the building, König had already sighted on the soldiers left outside. The sound of artillery masked the gunshot, so Vassili and his teammate noticed nothing unusual. Once inside, however, Vassili sensed something was off. His suspicion was confirmed by the glint of a rifle barrel hidden behind a hanging coat. As König waited patiently, Vassili's teammate realized the body they had shot earlier was a dummy. Vassili instantly recognized the trap. As a sniper himself, he knew he was facing a formidable opponent. For the first time, he felt a real sense of danger. This was nothing like his previous encounters. Now, he was the prey, and the slightest mistake could mean annihilation. König's position offered a clear field of fire. Anyone stepping into view would die instantly. Suddenly, a formation of bombers appeared overhead and began a fresh assault on the district. As the bombs fell, Vassili's teammate panicked and instinctively wanted to flee the building. But Vassili knew this was exactly the moment König had been waiting for. In this first duel, König failed to kill Vassili, yet he felt 80% confident of eventual success. Back at base, Vassili immediately reported the encounter to Danilov. He described the enemy sniper as meticulous, highly experienced, and superior in both speed and accuracy. Danilov was not surprised. He had already learned of König's arrival. For Danilov, Vassili could not be allowed to fail. His own political career depended on it. So he assigned Vassili a new partner. Kulikov had trained under König before the war and knew his habits well. Danilov believed that together, Vassili and Kulikov would eventually defeat König. They underestimated him. The next day, the pair set out on their hunt. Both knew that in König's eyes, they were now the prey. As they crossed a ruined passageway, Vassili glanced up and immediately ducked back. Using a periscope, he confirmed König was repeating an old trick. The immediate danger passed, but it meant the German was close. To draw him out, the team braved machine gun fire and dashed into a shattered building. Vassili took aim at a distant power line. Cutting it would disrupt German communications, forcing them to send a repair crew. The team could then relocate and wait. They quickly moved their gear across the bombed-out ruins to the other side of the building. Soon, the spotter saw a figure emerge with cable to repair the line. Kulikov sighted and killed him with a single shot. König quickly received the report. He had a counter for Vassili's trap. The Germans took a Soviet prisoner, dressed him in a German uniform, and forced him, at gunpoint, to carry cable and repair the line. Their goal was to locate Vassili's position. Kulikov, unaware, shot the figure without hesitation. As König scanned for the sniper's muzzle flash, Kulikov raised a helmet on a stick. He realized König had deliberately sent a man to his death to reveal their location. By baiting König to fire at the helmet, he hoped to give Vassili an opening.
Except Major König doesn't fire. Because Major König isn't there.
When the plan failed, the two decided to withdraw along their original route. At that moment, Vassili sensed something was wrong. The Germans had just lost one repairman, yet they immediately sent another. That didn't add up. Their plan hadn't worked, not because König wasn't there, but because he had likely seen through the ruse. Kulikov, however, thought Vassili was being overly cautious and brushed off his concerns. Neither man realized that König's hunt had only just begun. Vassili glanced down and gasped at the sight of Kulikov, dead. It had been a moving target in an extremely narrow window of visibility. If they hadn't jumped across together, Vassili would now be lying beside him. Vassili wasn't the only one feeling an unprecedented threat of death. Back at headquarters, Danilov received an ultimatum from his superiors. If they failed to eliminate the German sniper, both he and Vassili would face severe punishment. Under immense pressure, Danilov sought comfort from Tania. Aware of his feelings for her, the perceptive Tania asked him to let her return to her neighborhood. She preferred frontline duty over a desk job, wanting to contribute directly to the war effort. That evening, after returning to camp, Vassili confessed to Danilov that he was no match for König. Danilov reassured him, claiming he had placed a spy close to König, giving Vassili the advantage in their next encounter. Only after seeing Vassili regain his resolve did Danilov mention Tania. Later that night, Vassili went to see her. Everyone knew Danilov was in love with Tania. He had arranged for her transfer to headquarters as a communications assistant because it was safer there. He couldn't do much, but he could at least ensure she survived the war. So he asked Vassili to persuade her to return. Tania told Vassili that the Germans had rounded up a group of Soviet prisoners. To conserve ammunition, they tied them in pairs and lined them up along the riverbank. One bullet would kill the first. The body's weight would drag the second underwater. Her parents had been among them. That was why she wanted to fight. Hearing this, Vassili stopped trying to convince her. Instead, he handed her Kulikov's rifle. Meanwhile, König, as was his routine, visited a shoeshine stand. The boy shining his boots was Sasha, Danilov's planted informant. On the surface, Sasha appeared to be a child collaborator working for the Germans, but in reality, he was feeding König information that steered him toward positions favorable to Vassili. That explained why König always seemed to secure the best sniper spots first. This time, König disguised himself as a dummy. If Vassili passed through the usual route, he would likely overlook the decoy and lower his guard. But Sasha passed the same intelligence to Vassili, so Vassili avoided the familiar path, leading his teammate through a drainage pipe to approach König from behind. König quickly noticed the disturbance. Dust trickled down from the pipe due to vibrations. He immediately shifted position, sighted on the pipe's only exit, and waited for his prey. Soon, Vassili emerged. Every move he made was under König's observation. His teammate was wounded. Vassili's rifle lay just out of reach, and worst of all, their position was exposed. Remaining calm, Vassili signaled for his teammate to withdraw. After watching him escape, Vassili drew his bayonet and tried to hook his rifle back. Just as despair set in, bombers appeared overhead once more. Under the bombardment, shards of glass rained down in front of Vassili. Though unharmed, he was now completely exposed to König. The retreating teammate reported the situation to the others. Tania, who was supposed to be transferring out, ignored all warnings and ran into the pipe. When Vassili saw her, he was stunned. Against an elite sniper, a single mistake meant death.
Stay in! Get your head in!
Regaining his composure, Vassili pointed out König's position and told her to crawl low to cover behind a pillar. Following his instructions, Tania picked up a shard of glass. As long as Vassili stayed still, he wouldn't be targeted. König would aim for Tania. Vassili guided her to angle the glass, reflecting sunlight toward König's position. The maneuver made König realize that Sasha wasn't as innocent as he seemed. After this close call, Vassili and Tania grew closer. He went to Danilov and asked to be returned to regular duties. Vassili now preferred picking off ordinary officers the way he used to, rather than continuing the duel with König. He had people he cared about now. He didn't want any harm to come to either of them. But Danilov couldn't grant that request. Vassili had been elevated to the status of a national icon. To keep him from abandoning the mission, Danilov revealed the truth. He had been using Sasha as their informant. Seeing the innocent boy, Vassili was momentarily speechless. Working as a spy was extraordinarily dangerous, and Danilov was fully aware of the risks. With no other choice, Vassili pressed on with the task. This time he knew König's exact location. If he failed, it would mean exposing Sasha as a double agent. Guided by Sasha's intelligence, Vassili took up position in the middle of the night, directly facing the sniper's likely approach. A small yellow mound marked the path König would have to take. Vassili waited there through the entire night. The physical and mental strain pushed him to the brink of exhaustion. Unaware of the trap, König set out on his hunt as usual. In that single lapse, Vassili missed his one clear opportunity. König soon reached his elevated sniper post in the building. Outside, German and Soviet forces were locked in fierce combat. The battlefield was deadlocked. After one brutal assault, the ground below became a scene straight out of hell. Among the countless bodies, König spotted the glint of a sniper scope. The moment he saw the position, everything clicked. Just then, a German soldier appeared, scavenging supplies from the corpses. As König prepared to fire, the soldier stepped directly into his line of sight. The soldiers took everything from Vassili. By the time König reacquired the target, it was gone. After the fighting ended, Vassili's belongings were presented to König by his superiors. They planned to use them to propagate the news of his death. Believing the threat eliminated, the High Command decided König was no longer needed and ordered him to return home. But for König, the contest with Vassili had transcended mere national duty. At that level, only one master sniper could remain alive. That evening, König not only spared Sasha, but even mentioned aloud that he would be heading to the train station the next day. The naive boy didn't realize König was deliberately planting the information. Back at camp, Vassili reported his failure to Danilov. He proposed letting the German propaganda stand, using his death to end the matter once and for all. But Sasha revealed that he had already told König that Vassili was still alive. He then added that König would be going to the train station tomorrow. Before dawn broke, König had already set up his rifle. The outcome confirmed that Sasha had passed his words along to Vassili. König did not rush to fire. In the shelter, Tania saw that Vassili was alive and threw her arms around him in overwhelming relief. Danilov witnessed the embrace. Upon returning, he immediately ordered his staff to prepare a newspaper article declaring that Vassili had shirked his duty and was spreading defeatist statements. Meanwhile, on his way back, Sasha encountered König, who had been waiting for him. König had long suspected the boy's true allegiance. Before finishing Vassili, he intended to send him a devastating gift. After Vassili's urgent pleas, Tania finally calmed down. He promised her that he would take down König. With that assurance, Tania grabbed her rifle and charged into the trenches amid the relentless artillery barrage. She immediately sought out Danilov. To Tania, Sasha was like a little brother. The only thing she could do now was protect his mother. To get Sasha's mother onto an evacuation ship, Danilov lied, telling her that Sasha had defected to the Germans and would not return. Hearing that her son was still alive was enough for the mother. She began packing to board the vessel. During the evacuation, the group was suddenly caught in a German bombing raid. Seeing Tania lying motionless on the ground, Danilov was overcome with despair. At the mother's pleading, medics carried Tania onto the ship. Soon afterward, Danilov returned once more to the train station.
Man will always be man. There is no new man. We tried so hard to create a society that was equal, where there'd be nothing to envy your neighbor. But there's always something to envy. Tania isn't coming back. She's dead, Vassili. She was on her way back to you. She was right. You're a good man, Vassili.
Something useful for a change. Let me show you where the major is.
No, don't do that. Don't do that!
With a single precise shot, König allowed Danilov to atone with his life. The distance was so great that König couldn't be certain whether he had hit Vassili. The night passed with no movement from the opposite side, so König emerged to confirm the kill. Vassili, who had waited through the same long night, was not about to miss his chance again. After dispatching König, Vassili placed the German sidearm beside Danilov's body, a final gesture to honor his sacrifice. Not long afterward, the Soviets declared victory in the Battle of Stalingrad. The legendary sniper Vassili not only survived the war but also found Tania alive in the field hospital.